Hello, fans, and welcome to this week's edition of the Tiger Basketball Report. I'm Ben Rosenbaum, and of course, I'm joined by the head coach of the Tigers, Laura Harper. Coach, thanks for letting us invade your space. We're in graduation mode, so we appreciate you and your staff letting us come into the office and shoot this today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
So let's jump right into it. Coming off a tough loss off Maryland, you're 7-2 up until this point. What have you learned about your team that maybe when the year started you didn't know, and you've learned about them now up until now?
Of course, this team has dealt with a lot of resilience and adversity situations. So learning how we can really get an identity defensively, I think is something that we're growing as a team. I think we found ways to score pretty easily, but now once teams start scouting us, I think we're learning to see, okay, who really wants to defend? Who really wants to rebound? And that's something that day by day we're learning.
And we've seen through much of the season, any different night, a different player, a different Tiger can step up. Obviously, Kylie, Pat Anumba, we've seen India Johnson have some big games. Quinn double-doubling like she does. Is the depth of this team and the diversity of this team, it's one of its greatest weapons?
I believe so. I think it's a matter of whether the team truly feels like that's a strength. We have a lot of these me versus we conversations. Is it more important to get our numbers, or is it more important for us to win? And I think that that's a work in progress for us. But ultimately, we do want to win as a team and as a program, and I think our depth is something that's really going to separate us.
And then on the flip side of that, we've seen on different nights that some players or different players will struggle. You still managed to kind of gut out some of these wins at 7-2. You're certainly in the nice spot record-wise, but that lack of consistency at times, that has to be a little mind-numbing for you and your staff. And how do you get them to get to that point where you're getting more consistency? It doesn't have to be like a 30-point, 10-rebound night, but you're getting more consistency, better shooting night in, night out.
Of course, and I think we as a staff take full responsibility because the consistency starts with us. And I think as we continue to just practice plan and game planning, we've had 3 really long break stretches within our season. I think our team has felt the effects of that, but we have our players and we have our team, and I think I say all the time, we want to be playing our best basketball in March. So how can we adjust to the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of keep a forward trajectory moving up?
And then, of course, now a new wrinkle being added to this lineup. Kayla Morris now eligible. What does she do that she's able to impact immediately, and what can Tiger fans expect to see from her when she hits the floor?
I think Tiger fans are going to be blown away by her versatility with her size. She is our tallest player on the roster, and she is a 3-level scorer. She can score all the way out to 3. She can score, in the pinch post area. She can rebound at a really high level, and last year she was top 10 in the NCAA in blocks. So I definitely think she anchors us defensively really well, and she's not afraid to score it either.
We'll talk about George Mason, the team, in a second, but with this game, you're rounding out non-conference play, and of course, everyone wants to hit the ground running going into CAA play, conference play. What is the goal as you round out non-conference play, as you get ready to play in the CAA? Where do you want your team to be once you finish with George Mason?
I think just our identity is ever evolving. And I think I want our team to find value in stopping the other team from scoring. And I think that's something that we still are trying to find a way. But ultimately, we know that we have the depth offensively. We know that we can run in with anyone. I think it's going to be a really great test playing a team as talented as Mason to see, it's really going to be a tale of 2 offenses and a tale of 2 defenses. They're going to press us. We'll probably press them. How can we withstand all of that adversity?
And let's talk about George Mason, very talented team, as you've mentioned, 8-2, wins against William & Mary, Pitt. They've played American. You've had some common opponents. They also lost to Maryland by 9. They are coming off a very tough loss the other night against ECU. When you talked about it a minute ago, when you look at this team, how do you attack this George Mason team, and what do you have to be prepared for defensively as well?
Of course. Well, top 10 in rebounding, So it's funny because that's been the story that I've been harping and hollering over. Are we going to decide to put a body and be physical? Well, this team's going to make us feel it very quickly. They've got some dominant guards, and, Sonia Smith can really score at will there. And they actually have forwards that can stretch the floor as well. So are we going to decide to defend and rebound? I know that we can outscore anyone that we come into, but, even not looking back at Maryland, but we couldn't stop them. So I think with this game going into Mason, it's really going to be, how are we going to handle when we get scored on? How are we going to handle when they go on their runs? I think it's a really great opportunity going into break, and I'm excited.
And we've seen throughout the season, you play a lot of players. As we get closer to conference play, do you start shrinking that rotation a little bit, or do you still want to go with, whoever's hot is hot, and you're going to go down to the end of the bench if you have to and play someone if they're ready to go?
I think that ultimately we have to find our rotations. I think that there's been a lack of consistency from, us getting our 10, 9, 8-person rotation. So since there has been a lack of consistency, it's been a little bit easier to play more people to see what do you bring to the table? How can you adjust? What do you continue to bring every single night in, night out? So I think that's why our bench has been a little bit longer. I also truly believe with a team of 15, to have equal buy-in, you have to know that everyone gets a chance and that practice warrants playing in the game. So I try to stay true to that as well.
All right. The Tigers will face off with George Mason Friday at noon. If you can't make it out to TU Arena, that game is broadcasted on Monumental Sports Network. It's also game one of a doubleheader here at Towson, as the men will play following the conclusion of the game against George Mason. Coach, thanks for joining us, and good luck on Friday.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully at TU Arena. Until then, I'm Ben Rosebaum. Thanks for joining us, and as always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.